Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Virtual Academy of Large Scale Change. Okay, so I'm Ian Smith. I'm Programme Lead for Improvement Methodology in NHS England's Sustainable Improvement Team. I'll be facilitating the programme with my Sustainable Improvement Team colleagues. That's Elaine Bayliss, who's an experienced large-scale change leader, and Michael Anderson, an experienced improvement programme manager and lean thinker. And we will also be supported by Rachel Gray, who will be making sure that everything goes as smoothly as is possible on a large-scale WebEx such as this one that we have today. And we will be acting as the faculty for today's induction session, which will take us through how this programme is going to run. And we will also be the facilitation team throughout the programme. So, what are we going to do today? We're going to have a chance to learn a little bit about how WebEx works and how we'll interact in practice. So we're using some of those functions, many of which may hopefully be familiar to many of you already. We'll introduce the Virtual Academy of Large Scale Change, what it's about and what it's trying to achieve, and what it's trying to pass across and get us all to work together on. We'll discuss the webinar series, the content, when they will run, and what will be happening. We'll also be doing a little bit of work looking at what we call a learning compact and how we can maximise our collective impact of the work. So I think first up, to get us going and take us through some introductions and the interaction functions, my good colleague Michael Anderson is going to take us through this part of the session.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Ian.
You're welcome.
I will skip on to the next slide. If I could just grab the ball of you, that would be very helpful. Excellent. So I'm going to talk you through the different ways that you can interact with us today on this WebEx, and there are numerous different ways of doing that. So to start with, we're going to talk about feedback icons. So on the right-hand side of your screen, you have a little panelist box where you can see how many people have joined. And on the bottom right of that, you've got a little hand and a little megaphone. If you click the megaphone, you get numerous different options, say yes, no, too fast, too slow, and different things. So if you could all click that megaphone for me and give me a response, whether it be a green tick, a laughter, an applause, whatever you're feeling like, that would be really helpful to see that we can see if we can get everybody doing something on that. I'll just give you a second to do that, see what we've got coming up. I've got some hands, that's good. Excellent. Loads of smiley faces. Loads of too slows, that's good. Loads of ticks. Excellent, thank you. So if at any point you find that you're liking something or you want us to slow down or speed up, please feel free to use those symbols. We've also obviously got the chat box, which we'd love for you to use as much as possible today. And we'd just like to highlight that you need to select from the send to all participants. So if you select the box, you get a little drop down, make sure you've got all participants selected. Once you've got that selected, type your message in and hit either the enter key or send. And we can see what people are saying and we can try and keep up with the amount of chat that's coming in. We've had a lot already, but it's going to get a lot busier, I'm sure. And finally, we've got Annotation Tools. So on the top left of your screen, you'll have a little pen, and if you click on that pen, you get a little drop-down box, and we're going to be using the little arrow at the top today. So we're going to give that a test on the next slide. So great, good to see people already sticking stuff in the chat box. Hello, good afternoon. So on this slide, I'd love for you to click that pen in the top left, click on that arrow, and just place on the map whereabouts you're joining us from today. So it's where I am. Good. If you're joining from the UK, you can either use the tiny map on the left or the larger map on the right. They'll all be covered in arrows in a second, I'm pretty confident. Look at that. It's like a Jackson Pollock painting. Very nice. Okay, give you a few more seconds to add where you are from. a lot of people from the UK. Oh, we got somebody from Australia down there. I'm not going to do an Australian accent because I'm terrible at that. But brilliant to see. I've got somebody from South Africa. Excellent. Okay, I should just stop doing that now. I'm going to move on. And let's learn a little bit more about each other. So we're going to use the chat box. This is going to be really hard to keep up with. Yes, somebody in the chat box saying that if you're using an iPad, I don't think you actually have that functionality. So apologies about that. But in the chat box, it would be great if you could share with us your job role, what you're hoping to get out of this webinar series, and what's your biggest transformational challenge. So you can put them in separate chats, you can put them all together, whatever you want. I will fill a bit of time while we wait for some to come in. Oh, already there. There's some quick typers out there. Great to see. So we've got Project Support Officer, Right Care Delivery Partner, Finance Manager. I'm not going to be able to read all of these off because there's going to be a lot, I'm sure. But keep an eye on the chat box, see what people are saying. So just going to give you a couple of minutes to answer some of those questions. I'll try and scan them and group together what I'm seeing. Okay, so we've got national roles, we've got practice managers, so working in regions, governance, operations manager, education, training, and delivery manager. Great. Yep, just a reminder that you need to select all participants in your Send To, so make sure everybody can see it. The other options allow you to send messages privately and things, but for this, we'd love everybody to be able to say what you're saying. Great, so lots of job roles coming in. So how about some of your expectations of what you're hoping to get out of this series? Learn more about change management. Biggest challenge, getting staff on board. Yes, very hard to do. Staff always don't have time for improvements. It's always really hard to get that time out to work on things. Some examples of success. Yes, that's good. We'll cover some of that stuff. Excellent. Wow. Yeah, this is a lot of chat. It's good. My eyes are getting a bit tired trying to scroll up and down the screen. Getting teams working together. We've got a CFO, system transformation, balancing change alongside the day job. Yeah. Okay, perfect. If you want to keep going with those through the presentation, that would be brilliant. We can learn more about each other and start to link up with different people that are facing the same challenges as you. But for the moment, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Elaine, who's going to take you through the next section of this presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that lovely start, Michael. And what an amazing map with so many people joining us from across the country. And I think I spotted potentially 3 international guests with us today. Louis, Fiona and Lucy. It'd be lovely to hear from you guys what time zone you join us from and just how early or how late you've stayed up to join us today. So that really is fantastic. Anyway, let's get started with what you're going to get from this series. So I'm going to kick off by talking a little bit about the Virtual Academy of Large Scale Change. So this new iteration of the Virtual Academy is very much built on the foundations of the original Academy of Large Scale Change. And it was developed around about 2010 by the NHS Institute of Innovation and Improvement and was led then by our very own Sustainable Improvement Team Director, Lynn Winstanley, working alongside Dr. Helen Bevan and Paul Plusek, who I'm sure many of you will know. Our new Virtual Academy of Large Scale Change launched in October last year, and it was designed by myself and colleagues in the SI team to accompany the launch of our very newly refreshed Leading Large Scale Change Guide that we brought together to help and support people across the system like yourselves to understand much more about and develop skills in leading large scale change theories, approaches, methods and tools. And our ambition in kind of bringing together the Academy was to find a way that we could bring the guide to life. So how could we help you to support the application of that learning into practice so that together we could be much better able to address the unprecedented health and care challenges that we find ourselves facing now out in the system. So what does that support look like from the Academy? Well, the Academy's got a range of offers that uses a real blend of both virtual and face-to-face approaches. Offer one is this series of knowledge transfer webinars. These are introductory level Cpd certified webinars that we've made freely available to everybody, and they will start to introduce you to some of the key concepts that underpin successful large-scale change. And I'll come back to the webinar series and give you a little bit more information on those in just a minute. Offer two encompasses our leading large-scale change learning in action masterclasses. These are set at intermediate level, and they are 2-day masterclasses, and they've been designed for health and care teams who are already redesigning services or who may be ready to start their transformational journeys. They're accessed via the expression of interest process, and they connect system-wide transformation teams to our expert large-scale change faculty. And the aim of these classes is to help teams to really escalate their large-scale change ambitions by being able to have the space and the time to come together to apply large-scale change principles to some real work situations that you're dealing with on the ground. So as such, these workshops are really highly interactive. Delegates who have been along say they've had an absolutely amazing time, and it's been really focused on real work. And so they've gone home very happy, but also very exhausted. So if you do think about coming and joining us, be aware it is hard work. 48 teams involving around 300 delegates joined our masterclasses in the last round in 17-18. And feedback from those events has been extremely positive. The expressions of interest process for those masterclasses that we're going to be running this year will open very soon, and we'll make sure that we give you information on that as the webinar series rolls out over the next few weeks. If you do attend one of the masterclasses, you then are able to access offers 3 and 4. That is, you'll have further access to our large-scale change expert faculty, both through our online consultation clinics and surgeries and through the collaboration space. And we'll also help you to start thinking through how you can capture and evidence the impact that your transformation program is having. If you'd like to know more about the masterclass series, you can check out the information on this on our Virtual Academy webpage. And I'm hoping, Rachel, you might have to hand the web address for that. I'll read it out now for those of you that are dialing in and can't see the screen, but it's www.england.nhs.uk/sustainable improvement, all one word, /leading-large-scale-change. So really short and sweet, but Rachel will pop that in the chat box for you in just a few moments. We also have an Academy email address that you can contact us on. So if you would like us to get in touch with you with more information, you can email us at england.fi-virtualacademy@nhs.net. And again, we'll pop that in the chat box for you in just a couple of seconds. Thanks, Rachel. I can see she's got some of that up for you now. Now, the whole Academy itself is underpinned by our leading large-scale change guide. And this was launched by ourselves and the Sustainable Improvement team in collaboration with the Horizons team last September at the Health and Care Innovation Expo. Working with very many system leaders, we updated and refreshed that guide to support accountable care systems, STPs, and other leaders of large-scale change to help to meet the challenges laid out in the NHS 5-year forward view. The guide now, which has been adapted from the original guide developed by the Institute back in 2009-10, is now completely digital, so you can dip in and out of the sections that appeal to you. And it draws on the knowledge and the experience of people who've really led successful change programs, both in the UK and internationally. And it gives a really vital and comprehensive roundup of the latest thinking and the practical tools and approaches that you can start to use and apply in advancing your large-scale change programs. Now, so far, that guide seems to have been very well received. We've had over 5,900 downloads of the guide and over 10,000 web page views, which, for those of you that like web-based stats, I am told is very significantly good figures. So if you've not had a chance to view the guide yet, please do check it out. You can access the guide via the web link, which you can see on your screen now, and which Rachel will pop in the chat box for you. And that is www.england.nhs.uk /large-scale change. Now, before I start to give you a quick overview of the guide, we thought it would be great to come back to yourselves and let's just test out who's already had a look at that guide and what you think of it. So we're going to run a quick poll, and I'll get Rachel to bob that up on screen for us now. And what we're really interested in knowing is whether you've downloaded the guide, whether you've not downloaded it yet but you're planning to, or actually whether it looks great, but at the moment, no thank you, I'm not planning to look at the guide. So you should have sight of the poll now, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. You can click into button A, B, or C, and we'll just let that run for a few seconds, and then we'll have a little look-see as to how many of you have already had a look at it. There is no wrong answer on this one, so that's fine. I'll just let that tick over for a few seconds. Rachel, how are we looking in terms of people completing the poll?
We've got a good return rate. If we can give people another couple of seconds, and that should do.
Absolutely. Perfect. And again, apologies for those of you that have come in on iPads or are just dialing in. We know these interactive bits won't work for you as well as it will for your colleagues who've dialed in directly to the WebEx. So forgive us for that. Okay, Rachel, so let's close the poll and let's have a little look, see how widely it's been read by our audience on the webinar today. Okay, so we've got 13% of our audience who've already downloaded the guide, so you instantly go to the top of the class and get a massive brownie point from me, well done. We have got an amazing 64% of the audience who haven't downloaded it yet, but they're going to from today. So you also get to go on the very good girl step or good boy step. Excellent. And then there's just 2% who at the moment it's not quite right for them, and that's absolutely fine. If you do get a chance to have a look at it before you join us on the subsequent webinars, you will find it will be helpful background reading. Okay, so we can close that poll down now, Rachel, thank you. Okay, so let's move on. So let me give you a little flavour of what is in that guide for those of you who haven't actually seen it yet. Now, the interactive guide that we have consists of 3 key sections, and section 1 is our introduction to large-scale change. Here we introduce you to the large-scale change concept, which we define as the process of mobilising a large collection of individuals, groups and organisations towards a vision of a fundamentally new future. That's on page 6 for those of you who are interested. We start to consider what the literature tells us about large-scale change, and we start to challenge you to think about whether the change that you're accountable for really is a large-scale change effort. Now, we do this by utilising 3 different ways to describe large-scale change, including these 3 dimensions of large-scale change graphics that you can see on the screen now for those of you that have got visual. The further along the axes of pervasiveness, depth and size you are, the more large-scale change your challenge really is. We then introduce you to the model for large-scale change, which is developed through the learning and experience of system leaders who participated in the original academy. The model was designed to support transformational change across complex environments. And then finally, we bring in the change model. This gives us a structured way of considering the 8 key elements that we should think about when leading change. Now, the critical elements of the large-scale change model, the change model, and the underpinning approaches, methods, and tools come together collectively to form what we call our organising framework for change. Knowing that there are many critical factors that can affect our large-scale change outcomes, in section 2, we start to highlight a number of ways that we can enhance our ability to create the right conditions for large-scale change. And you can see some of those on the screen in front of you now. We start to look at how the world is changing, and we consider some of the new era thinking ideas, which include the recognition of the shifts between old power and new power. And many of you will know that Hyman's and Tim's have a new book on that out right now, which is definitely worth a read. We explore the opportunities of using or shifting from change programs to change platforms. We look at what we might learn from social movement thinking. We consider our energies for change and ways to enhance that, really recognising that building personal resilience amongst leaders who are supporting large-scale change is really, really critical if you're going to keep yourselves going through the long haul. And we look at how we can really start to build shared purpose, moving from burning platforms to burning ambition. In the final section, we highlight some of the most useful tools and resources that we think will help you with your large-scale change efforts, and hopefully many of these will be familiar to many of you. We start to include information on theories of change, logic models, and driver diagrams. We talk about tools to help you manage complex dilemmas, looking, for example, at problems versus polarities. We explore the 7 steps to measurement for improvement approach. We share resources that support effective stakeholder analysis, including the Continuum of Commitment Analysis tool. And we start to look at 30, 60, 90-day cycles of change and ways that you can help to establish pace in your change program through 2 steps down thinking. So before we move on again, let's get back to yourselves in the audience, because it would be really interesting to hear from you about the degree to which you've used or applied any of these frameworks, tools or approaches in your current large-scale change efforts. So we're going to run another poll, which I'll invite Rachel to bob up on the screen for us now. And what we're interested in knowing this time is, have you used these tools a lot? Yes, you know about them and you've used them just a little bit, but they're still unfamiliar to you, or no, not yet, this is all quite new to you. So same as before, 3 choices on the screen for those of you that have the interactive access, A, B or C, and we'll give you a little few seconds to look through that. It's fascinating to know how widespread some of these tools and approaches are being used at the moment out in the system. And with over 400 of you on the WebEx today, this will be a really good acid test for us in terms of the spread and the depth that these tools are being used. Okay, Rachel, how are we looking in terms of people filling the poll in?
Again, good comeback so far. If we can just give it another couple of seconds, that'd be great.
Perfect. So it looks like a minute's about right for these polls. Always hard to judge, so we don't have big spaces of no conversation going with you guys, how long to leave the polls open for. Okay, Rachel, do you think we're good to close that down now? Excellent. So here come the results, which hopefully most of you can see on the screen now. So in the yes, lots category, oh great, we've got numbers as well as percentages this time. Just 5% people using the tools a lot, so about 20 people out of 387. Lots of familiarity in terms of using the tools a little bit. So we've got currently 135 people out of 387 using the tools, which is fantastic. So definitely have some experience across our audience today to share knowledge and intelligence amongst one another. And then we've got some novices amongst us, so about 136 people out of 387 that took part in the poll saying no, not yet. And what we'd be really excited to do is to share the knowledge of the crowd actually that we have on the session today, and to help support one another with how we're using these tools. So if you were in the category of saying yes lots or yes a little bit, it would be great actually if we could use the chat box, and if you want to pop in there, what tools in particular have you used? Which ones have you found most helpful? And what happened as a result? You know, did you get any unexpected surprises from using those tools or approaches? What went well? What were some of the challenges? We'll let you have a little think about that and start sharing your thoughts in the chat box. And then I'm going to come to Ian and Michael just to see what kind of common themes are coming up. Be really interesting just to see what you guys think is working particularly well out there, helping with what you're doing out in the system. So we've already got lots of people starting to pop in some thoughts in the chat box. Brilliant having so many people on these webinars because there's so much learning to go on. So Michael, Ian, what are the top tips coming through in the chat box so far?
There's all sorts of things coming through, Elaine, stakeholder analysis, driver diagrams, logic modelling. So many of our colleagues in our evaluation team are very happy with that. A lot on PDSA, all kinds of things coming through.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, lots of different things, isn't there? So, okay, so a really good spread of use of tools out there in the system. And as we go through the more detailed webinars, we'll be taking deep dives into all these different areas. Okay, so we'll close that poll now and we'll move on. So I promised to tell you a little bit more about the webinar series. There are 6 modules in the webinar series after this induction module. And the webinar objectives are up on the screen for you now. So they are to introduce you to and provide an overview of the principles of systems leadership, the theory and principles of large-scale change, the process of change and the change model, foundational elements of mobilising and organising, and how you can use personal narratives to build more distributed leaders, helping you with your change programmes, the key principles of measurement for improvement and change, and approaches for maximising value from your network. Each of the WebExes in the series will last for 1 hour, and they'll be led by subject matter experts, will be very interactive in nature, so please do join in and share your thoughts and stories. And we'll share lots of case study examples, tools, resources and templates with you that you can use and hopefully apply to support your large-scale change efforts. We'll start the series proper on Thursday the 7th of June, and all sessions will run between 12:30 and 1:30. And I'll just quickly take you through who's leading each of those sessions. So 7th of June will be a session on systems leadership, and that will be led for us by Debbie Sorkin, who's the National Director of Systems Leadership from the Leadership Centre. The second session on the 14th of June will be a session on leading large-scale change, led by Ali Wheeler, and Ali is an alumni of the original Academy of Large-Scale Change and a large-scale change expert who's applied that model out in the field across numerous big programmes of change. The third session will be on the change model, led by myself and Michael. Session 4 on mobilising will be a fantastic session led by our colleague Catherine Pereira, who is the Head of Transformation in the NHS Horizons team. We'll then move on to measurement for improvement, double act here, led by Sam Riley, who is the Head of Improvement Analytics at the NHS Improvement, and Alison Johnson, one of our colleagues in FI, who's a measurement and evaluation expert. And then the final session on creating and managing networks on the 12th of July will be led by my colleagues Rob Coburn and Liz Maddox-Brown, who know all things network. If you've not already done so, then please do take a note of the dates, and if you click on the links, you'll be able to register for each of those sessions. More information, as I said, about those webinar programmes can be found on our Virtual Academy webpage, and we've already shared that link with you in the chat box. Okay, so I'm now going to hand you back to Ian, who will take us through some additional ways that we can hopefully help to increase your learning opportunity.
Okay,
Ian,
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elaine. Just a few more things to do before we close out the session for today. First of all, we're thinking about here how we can maximise the impact of the learning for us all collectively as a group. So a few tips and things to think about. It's great if we have a clear idea of what you'd like to get from the programme, how the content fits with your transformation and change goals and your improvement objectives. That would be fantastic. Please do, and I can see many of you have already started to do this, ask questions throughout the programme. There are various ways to do that. The chat box we have all found. We'll also be holding some Q&A sessions throughout the webinars and probably at the end of each session as well. And we'll be able to also interact through our collaboration space, which we will mention in a moment as well. We've designed the programme to be quite interactive, although we're delivering it online. There are quite a lot of interactive elements. If you can get involved with as much of that as you can, that would be fabulous, including the polls and the chat boxes that we've had a little bit of a chance to test out here this afternoon. And again, we do appreciate that everyone will have very busy diaries, but if you can take time to think about how the content in the programme is applicable to your particular challenges, and perhaps start to apply that and share your stories with us, that would be excellent, and will all help us learn together as well. And on that theme of learning, we're going to suggest a bit of an agreement or deal or learning compact, if you will, about how we might all get the most out of the programme. It's kind of gives and gets, if you prefer. So we've got some commitments to make to you all in the audience, and we've got some asks as well. So a big fun for us, we try to start on time and end on time so that you know that the webinars are going to begin and end as they are scheduled, so you can fit them into your day. We want to make sure that we do the best quality job that we can, provide highest quality interactive learning experiences so that you can all get the most from it, and so that we can get the most learning from you as well. Definitely would like to give you access to insights from subject matter experts, and we've got a great team working with us to deliver the individual modules as we go through. Very interested we are in the stories that you have to tell about how you put this into practice, and we'll make sure that our faculty and ourselves will share our stories of application as well. We'll be providing a space to communicate, collaboration space, which I'll talk a little bit about how we get on that into in a moment, and that's the place where we will put resources for you to use in your transformation challenges, including various bits of information and how to catch up on these as well. So on the ask side, if you could go with us and be prepared to start a time and end on time, that would be fabulous. As we've said already, please do get involved, ask questions, and please do share your thoughts. There have been some excellent thought sharing in the chat box already this morning. With so many delegates, very difficult to keep up with all of it. Please do apply what you're learning to the specific challenge that you had in mind when you signed up, no matter how big or how small that might be. If you all make steps towards that, that would be great, and we'd love to hear about how that goes. And do connect and engage with each other. We can see already from the chat that you all have a lot to offer each other, as well as what we can get from our faculty over the next month and a half. And please do complete the feedback surveys that will take place at the end of each webinar. Again, we'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. So if you if you're up for that, that set of gives and gets, and if you're going to take that that challenge, what we'd like to do is to use the pointer tool, which is the pen at the top left of the screen, and the little arrow tool under that. And if you're happy to sign up to the deal for the way that we'd like to work over the next few weeks, then do as you're doing. Pop your name on an arrow onto the screen. Might take a little bit of time for that to come through for everyone, with 400 plus people joining us on the webinar here today. So we'll just let those fill in before we move on. It's looking pretty good. Just take a question there from Carl. Can we have a list of participants so we can connect, or will that be on the collaboration site? We'll be doing some details about that in a moment when people have put their arrows on, Kathy, so hopefully you'll be able to connect with colleagues through the collaboration site. We've got 370 members on there at the moment, and hopefully a large proportion of you will decide to join there as well, so that will be a good way to connect. Okay, well, that's looking good. There's little room left for any names to go on. I see some people have found their creative side and drawn some faces as well. I'm going to suggest, in the interest of time, we move on. Many thanks all for putting your names and your arrows onto that screen. Might be worth taking a quick screenshot of that, Liz. Sorry, Rachel, before I move on. Okay, so this year we've managed to get the Virtual Academy series certified for CPD points from the Cpd Certification service. So each webinar that we run, starting with the first one in 2 weeks' time on system leadership, is CPD certified. There's one CPD point for each taught hour of the program, so that's 6 in total across the whole program. You can collect those points after successfully completing the short questionnaire at the end of each session, so that's quite important to do. You'll see at the end of this webinar session there'll be a feedback survey. It's just about feedback on this particular session, but that screen will have an additional learning questionnaire in it after each one of the live content modules. And if you complete that, you'll be able to claim CPD points for each of the webinars that you attend. And certificates for those will be circulated upon completion of that particular survey. So if that is something that is important to you to get, CPD certificates and points are available for all of the course. So the collaboration space that we've mentioned, it's for sharing resources, links, and so also a few of you already asked this, will we be recording the sessions? The answer to that is yes. We're recording this induction session that we record all of the content sessions as well. So again, if you do miss one, you can catch up. We were putting the video recordings onto the collaboration space here, which is on the NHS Networks platform. As you see, we've got 370 folks registered on there already. We'll be forwarding details of how to connect to that and how to get attached to that particular group after this session, and that information will go to the email address that you use to register for this event. Okay, so we've just got a question. Again, we're going to stick with the arrow tools. You may already have those selected, and we've got a question for you about how confident you feel collaborating and online networking. It's looking pretty good so far from the interaction that we have had in the chat box, but we'll just let folks take some time to put their arrows up onto the screen. Again, it certainly seems like it's biased towards the center and the right hand of the screen, so that's people saying they've got quite a lot of experience or reasonably good experience with using these things, or feeling pretty comfortable. But for those of you who are putting your arrows there towards the left, we're seeing a bit less confident with that. There will be a getting started guide that we put together when we ran this program last year, which we will share with all delegates again by the email address that you use to register for this event, and hopefully that will help you to get onto our collaboration space on NHS Networks. If not, if you can get in touch with us, I think via the Virtual Academy mailbox, one of the team, probably Rachel, will pick that up and hopefully give you some pointers to get you on there as soon as possible. But do have a go. Someone saying they don't know how to add the arrow. If you look towards the top left of the screen, there's a little pen icon. If you can click on that, and then immediately below it there's an arrow. If you click the arrow, you'll be able to pop it on. Whether you can see your arrow or not, with so many going on the screen, is another question. I think we've topped 400 folks on this webinar today. It's maybe a record for us, so it's looking very busy. It's looking very busy on that screen indeed, and Camp's saying they've worked it out now, so that's excellent. So there's still arrows going on, but again, in the interest of time and to let you be able to ask some questions, we will move on and see if we can get through. So a last thing really to say before we open for any questions that need to be addressed is our evaluation approach. So we've got three parts to our evaluation. We like to evaluate before, during and after the program. You can see there a link to a SNAP survey. Again, I think we'll mail that out to you. It has just popped up in the chat box where you can grab it, and that's a pre-program evaluation to help us give us an idea of where you're starting from with your own approach to large-scale change, your experience of large-scale change, whether that's a little bit or a lot. That would be great to know. During the program, there will be end-of-webinar surveys, which will just really focus on what's going well, what perhaps could be better, what you're learning from it, and we'll also include in those the learning questionnaire that you'll need to complete for CPD points. And then after the program is run, there'll be another survey link just like this, looking back at the program to close the loop and see how it's impacted your practice in particular. So I think that brings us to the end of the induction session and the content today. So we can take questions, which if you want to pop any in the chat box, that would be fab. And we may even be able to open lines to take live questions if we have brave souls who want to come on, and ask their question to the panel. So, do we have any questions already to address in the chat box? There seem to have many of them flashing past you, Lane, but too many for me to take in whilst I was trying to work through the last of the deck there.
Yeah, no, we've had a fantastically engaged audience this afternoon, so thank you everybody. And some common themes coming out. So a lot of people on the webinar today are quite new to WebEx, so getting used to the functionality is something that people would like a little bit more help and support with, because people are really wanting to engage, but at the moment aren't quite sure how to. And so that's something that we can pick up in, and we can, after the session, we can share some top tips with you around how to get the best out of WebEx.
Okay. It's absolutely flying past some of the questions. So how to get the best out? Well, you will all become expert in that, I think, towards the end. We've had a little bit of a practice today, which is why we do the induction, to familiarise folks who are less used to using the WebEx platform. So hopefully that has helped. We'll be using the interaction tools again throughout the session, and I believe, if I'm right, Elaine, most of our sessions start with a quick recap on some of those interaction tools.
Not on this series, but we can do.
Not on the series?
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'm making promises that I can't keep. I have seen a question here asking if this learning is shared with local authorities, which I think is a good question.
So yes, the webinar series is open to everybody across health and care systems, and we've had a wide communications plan behind this, letting all of our colleagues know. We'd invite everybody on the WebEx today to continue sharing news about these webinars, so all are welcome. And there has been a follow-up to that, Ian, in the chat box, with people saying it'd be great to understand what organisations and what geographies people are joining from, and how can people find out who else is out there in the community on these webinars. So 2 ways of doing that. Whilst we still have you all here, please feel free, if you're happy to share, to pop that information in the chat box and let folk know where you're joining from and what organisations you represent or you work for. And that way we can hopefully start to build up some kind of local collaboration where you can share and connect with each other. So you can do that through the chat box. You can also sign up to our Virtual Academy collaboration space, and then that will give you the opportunity to directly interact with each other through that network. So 2 opportunities to do that. And I think there's a bit of, sorry, go on in.
It's started that. Indeed, there are a few folks on the line from local authorities today who've announced themselves and said hello. There are many people now sharing details of each other in the chat box. It does mean some of the questions I was going to ask have flown away up to the up to the top of the screen, of which there were some very good ones. There's a question about slides and how people can access the slides, and I think that will be via the collaboration space, if I recall. We'll be loading up all of the slide decks. All of the resources will be available for this on the collaboration space, so well worth getting on there. Other people I saw asking questions of being able to connect with and know who the other participants are. And again, I suggest maybe the collaboration space is the way to do that. We have tomorrow the general data protection rules come into force. So I'd be very cautious about sharing people's contact details around if they hadn't consented for that to happen. But if you do use the collaboration space where all the resources will be, there are discussion forums on there, or indeed we can set them up for you, or you can set your own questions, and then people can self-select who wants to share information about themselves with their colleagues. It's possibly a way to do it. I can see some more local authority people coming in as well. So yes, we'd be happy to have many colleagues from local authorities. So if you want to share details of the sessions with your local authority colleagues, if it hasn't reached them, then please do. Are there any questions, Elena, might coming through? That,
a couple of shout-outs, actually. Yeah, I think a couple of shout-outs for folk, because as it's been within past, I've just been dipping back to see what people are sharing. So shout-out to Rachel Gillett, who has said that herself and colleague Andrew Pepper have signed up to all of the webinars in South Yorkshire and Bassett Law, so thank you for doing that. And they will be working together on using some of the tools and will be very happy to share throughout the process. So that's a fantastic offer from Rachel and her colleague Andrew. So thank you. You will get spotted if you offer to share.
We'll take them up on that now.
Absolutely, take you up on that. And I think we've also had some really great feedback from 3 people, Gillian Matthews, Simone Girdham, I think. Apologies, Simone, if I've got that wrong now, because I've lost your entry. And who said that very positively on the large-scale change guide. And Simone said she downloaded the guide last week and thinks it will become the new toolbox for us, many useful hints and tips. And even more impressively, shout out to Wayne Williams, who said he has literally just downloaded the guide while being on this WebEx and is running through it simultaneously. So I think that's incredibly impressive, trying to keep track of all of this and looking at the guide at the same time. So I'd be interested in your feedback, Wayne, as to how useful or not you might have found it. There's been some questions on the CPD element, Ian, and people wanting to know what there is to back up the CPD accreditation? So is it just the slides that people have got to as their evidence for being on the webinar, or are we offering anything else?
Okay, well, the certification has gone through the Cpd Certification service, of which we are a member. So they've reviewed all of the content, the way that we interact, and the learning question survey that would be at the end of each session, and they have agreed on the basis of the way we set it up and the way that we deliver it, and that various content and the learning questionnaires, that they are suitable for CPD points. So I think the evidence of attendance is captured by your registration and the learning through the completion of the end of WebEx surveys. And those surveys will allow us to produce CPD certificates for you for each session that you complete the learning survey for. So I hope that answers the question. I saw there were a few more flew past in the rapidly moving chat box.
Yes, it's proving a challenge to keep up with it, but we're doing our best. So I'm just whizzing through to see if there are any other questions. And Michael, going to come to you, because I was obviously focusing on those. Have you picked up anything else?
Just while Michael's having a look for that, I've noticed there's a lot of people saying that they consent to having their details shared with colleagues. And I did notice a comment from one colleague saying perhaps that is something that we could capture formally by perhaps putting a tick box field into either a survey or a registration to get people to explicitly enter the details if they want to share them with colleagues, which I'm sure we're happy to find a way to do that. Again, it may be something we do in the collaboration space, set up a consent form in there perhaps. Or unless there's a way to capture the information that's gone into the chat box. But certainly there's a lot of people who are happy to do that.
Next, I think, if we start with the collaboration space, because you're obviously giving your own permissions at that point to share with colleagues, and then we'll have a look at the rest of it at the back end. So that will be good. There is a question from Laura Wixton saying, will the lessons include delivering change across multiple sectors? I think that's a resounding yes, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the large-scale change approach and framework is definitely applicable to multiple sectors. And if I remember rightly, that some of the stories that our faculty will share, if they're sharing similar stuff to that which they've worked with us on the masterclasses and previous sessions, definitely has some multi-sectoral examples in. Whether it's exactly the same as what you're grappling with, I couldn't say, but I think I agree with you, Leah. I think that would be a yes. And it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts, the asker of that question, when we're going through that, if it's kind of ticking the boxes for you and what connections you're making with the particular challenge that you're facing and grappling with.
Yeah, and we'll certainly pick up on some of that as well in the systems leadership session and indeed in the mobilisation session. So across the whole series, you will get hopefully lots of insight from our expert faculty on that. No magic answers, of course, all grappling with similar things, but some tools, approaches, ways of thinking that might help you with that, hopefully.
Yeah, we can feed some of this good information into the sessions and see how much we can connect with directly.
Okay, Michael, have you picked up anything else through the chat at the moment?
No, I think we've covered most of it. There's just a few people having a slight issue with the collaboration space. I think we just need to state that it's a sign-up site, so you'll need to submit almost an application and you'll be approved as being part of it, but there's a slight admin process in the background because we couldn't have it as an open site. So if you log onto the page and request to be a member, and then somebody from our team in the background can go in and approve that request, and then you'll get an email saying you've got access to the site. And also there's another shout out to a couple of members of our team that we haven't sort of brought to the fore, but they've been really helping out in the background. So Callie and Rob have been doing a lot of work in the background today, collating questions and helping us out. So we should acknowledge those guys as well.
Indeed, and Rachel, who's been keeping things running smoothly, she's also put a comment in the box saying that email instructions about how to sign up and ask to join the collaboration space will be mailed out within the next hour, again, to the email address that you registered for the webinar series on. So there's a question, where's the link to the collaboration site? It's just popped in the chat box just above above where you asked that question, Polly, and again, it will come to you in an email. So it's great that so many of you want to get onto that immediately, but certainly, hopefully by the end of today, we'll have many of you on. That information will be coming out very soon. If anyone's having any problems, hopefully that will solve them. If not, come back to the Virtual Academy inbox, and Rachel and the business team will help you out to get you logged onto that site as best we can. Can you only join the collaboration if you have an NHS Networks account? Yes, you don't have to have an NHS email address, I don't believe, but if you can set up an account on NHS Networks, and then you can click on that to join, and hopefully you'll see you on there soon, Lucy.
There's two more things I've picked up in the chat box, Ian. So, yeah, there's more. We've got a lovely, lively audience. So, Amy Goldstone via Kelly has said that public health would really benefit from this. And Amy, just to let you know, we have got colleagues from Public Health England who have joined this session today, but please do spread the word, and hopefully those colleagues that have joined from Public Health England today will spread the word through their networks as well, if you think this will be beneficial. And we've had a question from Angela Douglas, Ian, asking, can we still get CPD points if we join the recording rather than the live event?
I think we have a way to do that. I might, if Rachel's okay to come online, I'm just going to check with her because we were chatting about it earlier on. Do we have a plan B to do that, Rachel? I thought we worked something out, but can I just check?
Yes, we do. There will be an online survey that mimics the post-webinar survey that will be available and emailed out to those that were unable to attend. I'm just finalising the formal process of that, but there will be an option for people to claim CPD points without having been on the live webinars.
Fab. Thank you, mate. Thank you very much, Rachel. So there we go. So it's on the way. So hopefully you'll be able to make most of the sessions and do that live. But we do have Plan B coming. A few things I's to dot and T's to cross to get it up and running, but it's going to be there shortly.
Okay, and I'm just literally scrolling through all the organisations that folk have shared with us now from where they're joining from, and it is a hugely diverse audience. So that is absolutely fantastic. Real chance for us to share and learn with each other. So. And that's the benefit of having these kind of virtual opportunities. It's a shame we can't all see each other, but there is a real chance for us to link up, make connections, and just see, how each of us is trying to get this stuff to be as effective as it can to improve the service that we provide to our patients, our families, our carers, and our friends. So, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. I believe you can load in a photograph or mugshot, if you will, onto the collaboration space. So we might get to see people virtually, which would be good as well. Also, so anybody else working in pathology, and there's certainly at least one or two on. There we go. Yes, hopefully we can connect you folks up as well. I've got some good colleagues in pathology up in the northeast as well, who perhaps I can connect some of you to as well. If you're interested in that. There's a question here about, can we send the links to register for the other sessions? That will be the content webinars, I think. I think we probably can. Where's the best place to find that, folks?
So on our NHS England webpage will be the easiest option for everybody. So we'll just pop the web address into the chat box again.
There you go.
And then,
if you can,
if you shout that out, Ian, for those people that can't see chat.
If you can quickly grab those links, then they are there. I'm not sure I can read them all out. We've got some short bit.ly links, which they're very cryptic. They look like computer code. If you can copy and paste those, you can grab them. I can see a few people have reposted those into the chat box. If you are only on the audio and can't see those, Callie just posted in the box www.england.nhs.uk/large-scale change, and that's large-scale change, all one word, with no spaces, and you'll find the links to register for all of the web sessions, including the dates and times, on that website as well. And Rachel's also saying that there'll be a post to on the webinar links via email in the next 48 hours, so you'll be able to get signed up for those if you would like to do that. So I think time-wise, we're at 25 past, so we're almost at the end of the session. Do we have time for one more question before we start to close out, Elaine?
I'm just going to see if there's anything major that we've missed at the moment.
Anything new above and beyond that which we covered so far?
Yeah, it's lots of people showing where they're from at the moment, and then people trying to get on the collaboration space. So, as I say, we've shared with people how to connect with us if you're still having problems with joining that. But just incredible sharing with people wanting to connect with each other. So I think that's a really healthy way to kind of end the session, actually.
Excellent. Okay. So we will draw to a close, make sure that we stick to our deal of starting on time and ending on time. So what's coming next? We've got a break next week, half term in many places and a bank holiday. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, the 7th of June. Same time, 12:30 to 1:30, and the session will be on systems leadership. With our good colleague, the inimitable Debbie Sorkin from the Leadership Centre, will help us on that one. And if you've not already registered, there's a link. It's just gone in the chat box there from Rachel, and again, they will be emailed to you so you can register to get yourselves on those. So it's been great connecting with so many of you. Far too many names to remember just yet. We'll do our very best, and hopefully we will connect with many of you again in 2 weeks' time. So many thanks for your time, folks. Have a great afternoon. We'll connect with you again soon.